Revelation of 0 degree Siefing. Living in the northern part of Canada, there's a particular sensitivity to 0 degrees. If the temperature remains at or below 0 degrees Celsius, the snow won't melt. But once the temperature exceeds 0 degrees, even reaching just 1 degree above zero, the melting of ice and snow begins. 0 degrees is a turning point. Below zero is solid, while above zero is liquid. I have a cold storage room where the temperature is maintained at 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. This helps prevent food from rotting and being damaged by freezing. However, whenever the outdoor temperature drops to over -30 degrees Celsius, if I'm not careful, the temperature in the cold storage room can drop below zero. Once it reaches 0 degrees Celsius or below, most of the preserved vegetables will freeze and become inedible. 0 degrees is a sign of life or death. Above zero means life. Below zero is death. In physics, there's a term called the critical point, which is the point at which a qualitative change occurs in a substance. Similarly, in the realm of the mind and psychology, there's also a critical point. For example, when you insult or criticize someone, once your insults, criticisms, or accusations exceed the recipient's threshold, they will become angry, even violent. When mental pressure exceeds the threshold one can bear, a person may become depressed or even contemplate suicide. Once the development of something surpasses the critical point, 0 degrees, a qualitative change occurs. When an animal's consciousness surpasses the critical point, it becomes human. When a human's consciousness surpasses the critical point, they either become like animals or become immortals or Buddhas. This insight into 0 degrees reveals a law. Regardless of how many years one practices cultivation, if the perfection and transformation of life have not exceeded the critical point, they won't see any qualitative change. Even after tens of thousands of years of cultivation, if one's life evolution remains below the critical point, they will still be the same person. They won't become immortals or Buddhas. Therefore, many cultivators give up halfway because they can't see any results after years of cultivation, feeling discouraged and lost, and they stop practicing. The fundamental reason is that they haven't exceeded the critical point. Perhaps they were just one step away from it, but unfortunately, they didn't persevere, which is regrettable. Fruits fall off when ripe. If the stem doesn't fall, it's because the fruit is still growing. As long as the fruit is still growing, it's not considered ripe, and it hasn't surpassed the critical point. As long as the fruit isn't ripe and hasn't exceeded the critical point, the stem won't fall. Once the fruit ripens, the stem will surely fall. All things hover around the 0 degree point, sometimes below zero, sometimes above zero, constituting the cycle of life and death. If it remains below zero, it's dead. If it stays above zero, it's alive. If it perpetually remains above zero, it lives forever in paradise. Why does the greatest creator reside in the world of 0 degrees? Because the greatest creator is the pivot and origin of all movement and change. All transformations in the nature of life must pass through the greatest creator, the 0 degree point. Without passing through the greatest creator, the nature of life cannot undergo any changes. This is why we must reverence the greatest creator and follow the path of the greatest creator. The revelation of the door gap. Siefing. Is there a gap between the door and the door frame? Even if the door fits snugly into the frame, there will still be a gap. When the temperature inside and outside the room is not significantly different, standing inside by the door, one may not feel any gap at all. However, when there is a substantial temperature difference between the inside and outside, standing by the door inside, one can feel the biting cold wind rushing in through the gap like a powerful stream of air. With the outside temperature below -30 degrees Celsius and the inside temperature around 15 to 16 degrees Celsius, even though there is no wind blowing outside, the huge temperature difference between inside and outside causes the cold air outside to rush in through the door gap like a hurricane. A pinhole-sized hole is not noticeable most of the time, but when there is a significant temperature difference between inside and outside, one can feel a continuous jet of cold air entering through the pinhole. This gives us some insight. Even between two people who are very close, there are still gaps. When the demands of two people are significant and cannot be satisfied by each other, cold air will enter through the gap. This is probably the fundamental reason why extramarital affairs continue to occur let alone when the relationship between two people is not very intimate. The same applies to relationships between friends. When the temperature difference between them is not significant, friends can support each other through thick and thin. However, once the temperature difference increases, betrayal becomes inevitable. From this, we can draw a conclusion. In all relationships, whether between nations, individuals, or between humans and society or nature, harmony will prevail only by maintaining a balance of temperature between each other. Once the balance is disrupted, conflicts and disputes will arise. The greater the temperature difference, the greater the destructive power and severity of disasters. For example, in a husband-wife relationship, if both partners have similar abilities and there are no significant income disparities, the relationship is generally stable. However, once one party's abilities and income far exceed the others, there will be significant gaps in the marital relationship, and divorce may occur at any time when conditions are ripe. Similarly, in the relationships between nations, why are the relations between countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada relatively close and strong? While countries like China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela can come together in special circumstances. The reason is that the temperature difference between them is not significant. Once the temperature difference is stark, cold wars and hot wars become inevitable. This further suggests that to maintain harmonious and intimate relationships with others, the first step is to maintain a basic balance of temperature between each other. For peace and prosperity in the world, countries need to interact with each other and avoid isolationism. To prevent extreme cold, heat waves, droughts, and floods in nature, humans must maintain a balance with nature, and human exploitation of nature must not exceed the limits it can bear. Once exceeded, extreme heat, extreme cold, droughts, floods, and various viruses will emerge and wreak havoc. The revelation of the camera. By Xie Feng. In this era, no matter where you go, there is likely a camera watching you, recording everything you do. This is especially true in important places like banks, jewelry stores, airports, and stations. But don't forget, many homes and even hotel rooms are monitored by cameras. Sometimes it's unimaginable that someone might secretly install a camera in your bedroom to record everything. This phenomenon tells us that no matter where we go, whether there is a camera or not, we must be prepared for the possibility of being watched by countless cameras. We must behave honestly and decently, otherwise, our actions may be captured by others and become irrefutable evidence for blackmail. What does this phenomenon reveal to us? It reveals to us that the sky has eyes, the earth has eyes, everyone has a pair of eyes, there are gods 3 feet above our heads, there is a space called retention information space in the 36-dimensional spaces. This space tells us that everything in the universe is a camera. Our daily words and deeds are meticulously recorded by the retention information space. As long as the universe exists, everything from our past, including a few years ago, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, hundreds of millions of years ago, is fully recorded, not in photo form, but in documentary form. Many people see their past like watching a serial drama after being hypnotized. Therefore, never do evil. Never have the mentality that if I do this, no one will know, especially when you are alone. Don't think that no one knows what you do. The actual situation is that heaven knows, earth knows, the greatest creator knows, everything knows. So don't sneak around doing bad things. You can't escape the law. Now let's think about another question. Does anyone know every thought in our hearts? Before we get this answer, let's think about whether anyone will know every word we type on our computer and mobile phone. The truth is, as long as our computers and mobile phones are connected to the internet, no matter what content we type on our computers and mobile phones, the network terminal knows and even records it. We know that every person is connected to the entire universe. So we know that the universe knows all our thoughts and ideas, and they are all recorded. How can the universe know our thoughts and ideas? How does it know our inner activities? It turns out that all our thoughts and activities in our hearts will turn into a frequency wave and be emitted into the universe, and our biological wave color will also change with our inner activities. Even our expressions, emotions, and postures will change with our inner activities. How can the universe not know? The universe knows everything means that Tao will record everything that has happened and is happening in the universe. This means that the greatest creator knows everything. Our every little bit, including inner activities, can't escape the greatest creator's eyes and ears. So we understand the reason why miracles appear when we cry out to the greatest creator for help in times of crisis. We will understand the value and significance of praying or confessing to the greatest creator. So we further understand that our current life situation is all caused by our past words and deeds and all the activities in our hearts. Everything is just right. There is no favoritism and injustice. So we understand how to live this life, understand which path to take in life.